This video here is going to be showing you the details and the debunking of QEEGs being used on psychics. Fat cat.
Some of you may remember this. Last year I asked a leading brain expert to take a look at what's happening to Theresa's brain when she says she's communicating with the dead. I want you to take a look at this very carefully.
Okay, now keep in mind, Theresa did a QEEG, the same as Tyler Henry. I already went through the problems with QEEGs and sort of talked about how they're just pseudoscience and they're a complete joke. And yes, it's a QEEG, not an EEG, not an fMRI, it's a QEEG. And the QEEGs are pseudoscience. They're really only used to measure a person's, like, whether they've repaired a brain injury. It's used to kind of measure, like, if you have brain injury and you're doing exercises in a clinic, they use a QEEG to see if the repair is working, if your exercises are working. And that's all it really does. And it's got a whole thing where it's making a decision based on an algorithm, based on a stereotype and statistics. It's not even giving you an accurate image of just your brain. It's actually giving you an image based on your brain compared to a database, and then it spits something out. I will cut in, I'll see how long it is, and I'll cut in my little section of the Tyler Henry video explaining QEEGs and the problems with it, because I know that's going to be a comment in this video. So I'm going to debunk it for those of you that actually are watching the video. All right.
Can science detect the spirit at work? That was the question we tried to answer with our first of its kind experiment. With the help of leading brain researcher Dr. Daniel Amen,
I didn't really think to check into this doctor's background because, like, they're all just fame seeking, right? He runs brain clinics, so him showing up on a Dr. Oz episode, I'm sure he showed up on other ones too, it brings him business. He's got IMDb's, he's got a bunch of books he's written, like he's after fame. So I started looking through his Wikipedia, and here, this was interesting. It said in a 2011 paper, neuroscientist Anjan Chatterjee, sorry, I might be saying that wrong, discussed example cases that were found in the Amen Clinic's website, including a couple with marital difficulties and a child with impulsive aggression. The paper noted that the examples violate the standard of care because a normal clinical diagnosis would have been sufficient. There was no reason to obtain functional neuroimaging for diagnostic purposes in these cases. Most patients don't realize that the SPECT scans, which is what his clinic specializes in, rely on unproven claims, essentially pseudoscience like QEEG. In 2021, Stephen Hyman, director of the Stanley Center for Psychiatric Research, stated, "People who are desperate and vulnerable to snake oil, and this has all the look and feel of a clinic that's preying on people's desperations." This is the quality of the doctors that they get to do these stupid scans. Like, if anyone tries to use these brain scans as proof of something, as psychic, whatever, the people that are running this stuff, these things are all pseudoscience, and the doctors are taking advantage of people to line their pockets. All right, and Washington Post 2012, they reported officials at a major psychiatric neuroscience association research center see Amen's claims for the use of SPECT as no more than myth and poppycock, buffaloing an unsuspecting public. Essentially, he's just doing like pseudoscience, snake oil scans on people to charge them a bunch of money, because brain scans are expensive and you don't need a brain scan to diagnose a lot of things, right? And he's essentially giving everyone a brain scan. Oh, and he's one of these. He's pushing supplements. Amen's website markets vitamin supplements. The supplements have been promoted for a number of health benefits, including a claimed ability to prevent or stop Alzheimer's disease. There's no cure for that. He's selling snake oil. There is, however, no known benefit from taking the supplements. Of course not. You can't cure Alzheimer's. If there was a cure for it, then everyone would be cured. Like, come on. Neurologist Robert Burton has written that he was appalled by the things offered for sale on Amen's big business websites. Harriet Hall has said that Amen prescribes inadequately tested natural remedies and irrational mixtures of nutritional diet supplements as part of his treatment. There's a lot of doctors out here like that. Like, they're the doctor that took care of my family all switched to. He was a snake oil salesman like this too. I refused to switch to him, and I stayed with a normal doctor. There's many of them out there, and they do try to skirt around things, and they do a lot of fraudulent activity essentially. So anyway, we already know that Dr. Oz is a piece of crap. Like, we've seen tons of stuff on him. And this is the quality of people that he brings into his show. Are we really surprised? No. But this is just more ammunition that if you're fighting with a loved one or something and trying to get them to stop seeing these mediums and give them money, like just explain to them who these people are. Just because you have a title of doctor doesn't mean that you're a good person, and doesn't mean that you're being truthful, and doesn't mean that you're also smart. Because there are a lot of doctors out there that are kind of dumb and they hop onto conspiracy theories too. Everyone is still human. Just because they have a doctorate doesn't mean that they don't fall for human traps, whether it be greed like this, fraud, or just falling for things like conspiracy theories and tainting their own mind.
We hooked up Theresa to a QEEG to scan her brain in its normal state. And when she read our audience for messages from the other side.
Allow the messages to come to you. And when they do, raise your finger.
Are you ready for the results?
Do I have a choice at this point?
What we discovered was that when Theresa was channeling, there was a dramatic shift in her brain activity.
Oh my goodness.
What we see is the alpha waves go down, actually her frontal lobes go down significantly, and it acts.
And again, I will put in the debunk for this. However, Dustin Dean, a mentalist, he did send me, someone did a study where they did brain scans on a mentalist who was doing mentalist techniques, which is what these psychics are doing. And they had similar results. It's not about being psychic. It's just about using parts of your brain for situation that you're in. Like, it's nothing special. Let me see if I can bring up the study really. So here's the study and investigating paranormal phenomena and fMRI. See, they did fMRI, but the QEEG is kind of based on an EEG and an fMRI. It's like kind of both, but it's actually like pseudoscience. It's not taken seriously in actual research studies, so it makes more sense if they want to be taken seriously in a study to use fMRI or EEG or fMRI and EEG together. So it talks about how they wanted to test telepathy and guessing stuff, and they had a mentalist come and do this. Okay. So using fMRI, they examined a famous mentalist while he was performing telepathic tasks. A match control subject without the special ability was also examined under similar conditions. It's just about the person using parts of their brain because they're like paying attention to their environment. They're looking at a person's body language. They're listening to how their voices change during it. They're taking in a ton of information and processing it really quickly. Like, that's what psychics and mentalists and everyone do. So you are accessing different parts of your brain. Whereas someone who doesn't do this and doesn't know how to do this, they're not going to be accessing that part of their brain because they've never done this before and they don't understand all the data that you have to take in to make successful guesses. Okay. They pretty much had the findings are suggestive of limbic basis for telepathy and warrant further systematic research. Essentially, the brain lit up as well when they did it. And they talk about this being telepathy, but this is a mentalist. A mentalist doesn't do telepathy. This is tricks. These are tricks, right? So Dustin Dean, he really wants to actually raise some money together to do a QEEG while he's doing mentalist tricks, because a QEEG is what Tyler did and what Theresa did. fMRI is actually accepted by scientific community. QEEG is not. That's how much pseudoscience it is. But he does want to do one, and I think it would be really awesome if he could actually do a scan so that we can finally just put this to bed. It's not anything special. The scan doesn't prove that they're psychics. It just proves that they're using their brain a lot. And they're taking in a lot of information and they're processing. It's like the difference between your computer sitting, not doing anything, and like my computer rendering a video. That's all it is. It's not magic.
Activated both of her temporal lobes. So there's just some evidence now that it is, in fact, a brain phenomenon.
So what do you conclude from this experiment? Do you think there's...
And the temporal lobes, they are crucial for processing auditory information, memory formation, and language comprehension. Also visual recognition, emotional responses, all the things that you're doing when you're playing the guessing game and you're involving grief and loss as well. Like, it's not psychic. It's not mystical. You're just using your brain. A lot.
You know, there's a lot more that's real than scientists believe that's real.
These results, they were stunning to me. Were you surprised by them?
I wasn't. I really was, because I knew there was something going on there, but it was just nice to see that it was validated. And that's what I feel that I'm able to do as a medium. It has never been, Dr. Oz, about me wanting people to believe in mediums. That's not the focus of my gift.
Which is something she always says and repeats over and over again. It's like when someone says, "Oh, I'm a nice person." It's like, well, you don't need to say that if you're really a nice person. This is one of those signs of something is off when people repeat stuff like this. I'm real. I'm real. I'm not lying. I'm not lying. Like, that's a sign of someone who's lying. Also, to add to the QEEG thing, I know she does another QEEG on another show as well. It's the same crap. Tyler Henry did it. It's the same crap. It's nothing special. All right, I'm going to bring in the clips from my Tyler Henry video where I go into more sciencey details about the QEEG. This is like very heavy science, like technical stuff. So I understand if you want to skip it. I always put chapters in my videos if you need to skip this section. Let me just preface it by saying, essentially, a QEEG is pseudoscience, and it works by comparing your brain signals with a database of other people, and then it spits out a report based on how your brain looks against other people's brains that have had EEGs and fMRIs, and it sort of just does a best effort match, which is why this is a pseudoscience and why the scientific community doesn't accept it. But let's get into the details of it. So an EEG is an electroencephalogram. It is a test that measures the electrical activity in the brain. You will usually see this most often as little electrodes attached to the head. Sometimes, rarely, you'll see it done through a cap, but I get this done myself because they're always testing me for MS. I'm on like the MS watch list or whatever. So I get this done a lot, and they attach the electrodes straight into your scalp, and then they do a bunch of tests. The electrical machine, it measures the electrical circuits and currents and so forth. And then there's an fMRI, which is a functional MRI, and that is a type of MRI scan that can show which area of the brains are most active when you're doing something. So it kind of maps out the brain. So most often you'll see a lot of scientific studies refer back to fMRIs and EEGs. So what about this QEEG? A QEEG is a quantitative EEG. And what it essentially does, it sort of works like an EEG in the sense that it has electrodes and it maps the brain and so forth. But then the quantitative part of it uses computer models to sort of fill in the blanks, also predict different things like that. You're not necessarily getting direct, like this directly happened in your brain. This is like, well, these signals went off, therefore these other ones most likely also went off. So we're going to print a report showing that this is what your brain looks like based on these few signals that went off. An EEG and an fMRI are accepted by the scientific community, but there's ongoing debate over the use of QEEGs. The whole field is really awaiting validation by independent investigators, and clinical studies need to be done. Proper clinical studies are also needed because those are not being done. So until this is proven and accepted by the entire scientific community, this is a new pseudoscience that needs to be cautiously viewed and cautiously used by skilled neurophysiologists. It's mainly used to improve the analysis of background activity, slow, fast focal activity, subtle asymmetries, spikes and waves, as well as longitudinal follow-ups. I know that this is a little bit heavy to digest, this kind of material here, but I'm just trying to explain to you the problems with using QEEGs. QEEGs, especially in the hands of untrained operators, it's all based on statistical stuff, and it can be influenced by a wrong placement of an electrode, artifact contamination, improperly filtering different bands, drowsiness of the subject, using incorrect comparisons and using incorrect control data, lots of different things. It's all statistical. It's all statistical mathematics in the back end. And it's very easy to have an abnormality based on a human error. As well, EEGs and QEEGs don't actually provide any information about cognitive function on an individual level. It's pretty good for defining physiological issues, but it's a terrible tool for quantifying what the mind might be. It's not good for finding out these metaphysical answers. There are lots of different studies out there that are disregarding the QEEG, and a lot of scientists don't agree with the methodology. The best that they agree with is that QEEG is a way to, it can be a good tool to improve clinical diagnosis and treatment response. So let's say you have a brain injury or something going on and they map your brain with QEEG. Then they get you to start doing therapies and stuff to help like retrain your brain, things of that nature. They can keep then doing QEEG pictures to see the effectiveness of the treatment going on, and they can see change over time with that. But that so far is the only thing that the majority of scientists can agree on, is that it's only good to map ongoing treatments and therapies to see whether they're having any effect on the brain. So we see things like Theresa Caputo and Tyler Henry go for these QEEG brain scans, and it's just a gimmick. It's just a gimmick for Hollywood. The only people that I found that are actually doing proper brain scans to test psychic abilities, the University of Virginia, they're actually doing it with fMRIs and EEGs and a very controlled lab that is shielded from tons of stuff. When you're looking at these QEEG stuff on like Hollywood TV shows and different things like that, just remember it's a pseudoscience, and it's not really showing anything other than it can show like if someone has anxiety or stress, which if you look at Tyler Henry's brain scan episode, that's probably what it was. It can also show someone going into a meditative state, which he says he does. Okay, that's enough sciencey talk. I think we'll move on to the next section. I'm going to pull this QEEG stuff, I think, into its own video because it is a comment I get a lot, and I think it would be a good benefit to just have it as a standalone video as well. Fat cat.